shall we? There have been some developments there with Ukrainian army military saying that they've hit Russian soldiers in Ukraine, which have killed a few hundred of them, around 500. They're saying, however, Russia are countering that, saying actually only around 63 Russian soldiers have been killed in that military attack. Let's get the latest on that. Let's speak to Cormac Smith. He's a former strategic communications advisor to the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, and he joins me now. Good evening to you, Cormac. Happy New Year.
Claudia, Liza, Happy New Year to you and to Chris and all the staff working there in the Talk TV studios.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Lovely to see you again.
Good to have you with us. And who knows, could this be positive news in terms of the latest situation in Ukraine, with Ukraine saying that they have killed hundreds of Russian soldiers. However, Russia has said no. There was an attack, but only around 60 soldiers have been killed. What do we know?
Well, look, I've spoken to a few Ukrainian friends, including a senior diplomat today, just to get their sense of the credibility on this. And they're very, very clear that it is. Now, it's horrible to be, celebrating death of anyone, but this is a war. And this looks like, Russia say 63, Ukrainians say 400 originally, and the death toll seems to be going up. We know that Russia lies on an industrial basis, and there can be very little credibility with what they say. The Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, on the other hand, have been absolutely consistent from the start. They publish their estimates of enemy casualties, including equipment and so forth, destroyed on a daily basis since the outbreak of the war. So I'm inclined to believe, because of the people that I know and the research I've done before coming to speak to you, that this is 400 minimum. The death toll would seem to be rising. Look, it is a credit or a compliment to the skill and the intelligence of the Ukrainian armed forces, and in particular their ability to use these HIMARS, which these are high, very, very high tech multiple launch rocket systems, which the Americans have supplied them, and they have been putting them to increasingly effective use. It's also, I think, a mark of the ineptitude and incompetence of the Russian armed forces, which we have seen over and over again for the last 11 months almost. Now, it seems like this was a school which the Russian forces had taken over to house new conscripts in. So it was a target that, if it was hit effectively, which it seems to have been, was going to result in a huge number of deaths. So, 500 deaths is not good, but unfortunately, this is a war for survival for the Ukrainians, and they didn't start this war. So, yes, I think this is a big strike for the Ukrainian armed forces.
What is the significance if indeed, 400, 500 Russian troops killed in this attack? What could this mean in terms of this war?
Well, look, the significance is, I spoke to, as I said, one of the people I spoke to today, a good friend, but also a senior diplomat, said, yes, and the estimates for the casualties today is that they have killed 720 Russian soldiers. So that's this attack in Donetsk, but also elsewhere. One of the big fears is that there is going to be a massive new Russian offensive very early in the new year. We know that Putin has conscripted 300,000. We believe that 50,000 of those have already been sent to the front, which leaves 250,000 still in training. Now, there are question marks as to how well trained, led and equipped and motivated they will be, but we know that Putin has absolutely no compunction with murdering tens of thousands of innocent civilians. We've seen him do it in Ukraine and elsewhere, but also feeding tens of thousands of his own people into the meat grinder. So I'm afraid, in the cold hard facts of war, this is a very good result for the Ukrainians. But they are, the estimates as of today, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense estimate they have killed over 106,000 Russian soldiers since the 24th of February. We need to multiply that by 2 or even 3 to get the total number of casualties. This is absolutely huge. That's countered by a NATO country recently said that they believe that Putin will have no problem in losing 300,000 of his forces. This is an
Wow.
existential war for Putin. It's existential for Ukraine because Putin has made it clear that Ukraine has no right to exist, and indeed the war has been genocidally prosecuted. And I don't use that word lightly, Claudia Eliza. There are five tests of genocide in law, and Russia has met all five of those tests. The most common recent one being the targeting of civilian targets and energy infrastructure and so forth. So you know, Ukraine is not out of the woods yet. I mean,
Mm.
Putin is losing very badly on the ground, but we know he is willing to throw an awful lot more at it. My view, and I've said it to you before, is we have given Ukraine tremendous support, the Americans and ourselves, the Brits and other allies in particular, but we need to actually do much more. And there are particular weapon systems that the Ukrainians are crying out for and have been for months. These are jets, modern tanks, and longer range artillery, which they believe will enable them to deliver the knockout blow to actually to liberate their territory and actually win this war in
Mm.
2023. So it's still on a I would have to say that things are still on a knife edge for Ukraine, and it really is down to the support that we give. Oleksiy Reznikov, if I can just finish off, over a year ago, who's their Minister of Defense, said, "We do not expect your boots on the ground. Give us the weapons we need and we will do our own fighting." I have got to say, we need to not only keep doing what we're doing, we need to give them more support going forward into 2023 because Putin cannot afford to lose.
But because of that reason precisely, it could be also quite worrying how Russia, how Putin could respond if the West, the UK, America continue, not only continue, but actually provide more support in the forms of weapons. As you say, that killer blow that they need, how would Russia respond to that? But hey, Cormac Smith, former strategic communications advisor to the Ukrainian foreign minister, really good to have you on Talk TV as always. After the break, I'm going to continue taking